Well, he's the former head of the Green Party in England, championship goalie, international BBC presenter, multi-time best-selling author, and somebody who's really expanded people's paradigms and gotten them to look into a lot of very interesting places. And so much of what David Icke predicted more than 15 years ago, unfortunately, has unfolded. I agree with him that we're on the verge of a world transformation, an awakening. The system is panicking with divide and conquer. There's no doubt they blew the oil well. There's no doubt they're now admitting we're going into a depression, trying to start World War III. They know they're losing control. And let me tell you, this is the most important time in human history up to this point. He's with us for the next hour. David Icke, thank you for being on with us.
Pleasure, Alex.
Well, we were just talking during that 1-minute break, and you were saying that you do believe this is the quickening or the beginning of the acceleration of a real paradigm shift. There's a lot of issues I want to go over, but what's on David Icke's radar screen that you think is most important right now?
Well, I think, what we're seeing on the surface, horrendous as it is a manifestation of something that's actually much, much deeper than this. There's no doubt whatsoever. I've seen it so blatantly over the last 20 years, gathering pace and gathering pace. There is an awakening going on. It's not the majority yet, but minds are opening. Now, as minds are opening, they're seeing what they couldn't see before. And what the cabal wants to do is keep those minds shut. And one of the most effective ways of doing this is why we've got to stay really strong and focused in this period we're going through now. And it's going to be a number of years of major challenges. The way that they are seeking to keep us from awakening, to keep our minds closed, is to keep us focused on fear, keep us focused on survival, keep us bewildered, keep us in a state of constant anxiety about what's happening and what about the future. What about the kids? What about the job? The way of life in the Gulf has gone. Oh, my goodness, a war in Iran now. What's going on? Oh, no, now there's an economic depression. Oh, my. This is all orchestrated to throw everything, not just the kitchen sink, but the plug as well, at humanity in general, so that we are so focused on survival and fear and anxiety that we don't go and continue this process of awakening, so we can actually expand our minds to see what the closed minds before could not see. It's a battle for our minds. It may not seem like that. It may seem like it's just another manufactured catastrophe in the Gulf, another war in Iran, another economic collapse. But all these things are orchestrated to fire at our minds, and our minds are the target, because from our state of perception of self in the world comes our behavior and our actions.
That's right. I've noticed the globalists dominate by just getting our attention and always creating new crises, so we watch the mainstream television, so we pay attention to them, and they dominate how we dress and what we think and what we eat, and just literally get us sucked into this false tapestry, this false reality that they are projecting. And now they're openly saying they want to start shutting off the web, which shows that they realize they wanted to use it as a tool of domination, but that it's backfiring against them.
That's the word, Alex, attention. It's a battle for our attention, because the idea is to hold humanity in a state where we are filtering and seeing ourselves and the world only through the five senses. We are multi-dimensional consciousness awareness. We are far, far greater than what we appear to be when we look in the mirror and say, that's David Icke, or that's Alex Jones, or that's Ethel Smith. And what they want us to do is keep our attention on the five senses. And that's what we do when we are in fear, when we are in anxiety, when we're worrying about the future, when we have this sense of fear of not surviving. That pulls us into the five senses, and that's what they're trying to do.
And then the system poses as the saviors and says, we'll keep you safe. Just let us run your life. Stay there, David Icke. Back in 3 minutes. A lot of key info straight ahead. Well, we've got David Icke with us for the rest of the hour. If you just joined us, former head of the UK Green Party, champion goalie, a BBC presenter, best-selling author, and always interesting to get his perspective on things. I always find it thought-provoking and very apropos of what's happening in our world. We always find his perspective to be enlightening. David, instead of us getting into generalities or myself getting into long diatribes about my view of what's happening, today I really want to try to sit back. We'll see if I can do it, because you bring up so many points that make me want to chime in and just throw out questions and get your take on it. The globalists are overrunning the West with third world populations. Why are they doing this?
Well, it's two things we need to know to get a perspective on the world, is where this cabal wants to take the world, and then the methods they use to take us there. And where they want to take the world, of course, as we well know, is to a global fascist dictatorship with the end of countries, the end of borders, where basically you just have the world government dictating to massive regional blocks, and anything below that is just irrelevant. And one of the great barriers to that happening is the people's sense of their own culture, their own country, their own sovereign nation, if you like. And because people, if they have a real sense of country, and I'm not saying that I'm into all this, but a lot of people are, and this is the point from the cabal's point of view, they will resist giving that power away, say from the United States to the North American Union, in Britain to the European Union. And so the idea is to break down that sense of culture by basically breaking down the culture. And you do that by opening borders to other cultures. Now, I'm not saying one culture is better than another. I'm just trying to explain here what they're doing from their perspective. And that you let different cultures pour into the same area, and suddenly it becomes a cocktail. And there is no single culture anymore that people can identify with, and that is all the time loosening and weakening people's sense of need to resist the giving away of sovereignty to unions and to a world government, because they've lost the sense of culture that they had before. See, this is why what we're talking about here is happening all over the world, because, of course, it's a global agenda. In Europe, the European Union has brought down the borders all over Europe, and every time another country comes into the European Union, their borders come down, and the borders between them and every other country comes down. And so from Eastern Europe, for instance, people pour into Western European countries, and it becomes, again, exactly the same thing, a cocktail of cultures, which eventually becomes just nothing that really is something people can identify
And the
with.
globalists can also play those different groups off against each other. Not only will they give up their rights, but then I see the trendies always counter back. Oh, well, it's like Star Trek, which we know is predictive programming. We'll all be unified in love. But this isn't some loving world government that we decided to lovingly join. This was covertly built. They now admit it was a covertly built, and it's authoritarian, dehumanizing, and it's admitted in-game is global depopulation.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a very, very interesting point, a very important point about playing one off against the other. You know, the people that pour from the poorer countries into the richer countries through the borders coming down are just as much pawns in this game as those in the countries, the indigenous population that are affected by that. It's not good guys and bad guys we're talking about here. It's different aspects of the human race being used as pawns in the same game. And this is why, instead of fighting each other, we need to start looking at what unites us all, which is the fact that we're all the target of this cabal, this global fascist dictatorship in the making, and the very fast making. I mean, we have proof in this country a few months ago now, that during the Blair administration, they were allowing people, immigration into Britain, on a scale they weren't admitting to. It came out, one of the people involved blew the whistle on this, and what they were actually saying is they wanted to have so much immigration into Britain that it would, this is the quote, change British society forever. And in that one quote, we have the prime reason for bringing the borders down. This is what they've done in Europe. I mean, the government here now, the new government of Cameron, saying, oh, we must slow down immigration into Britain, but they don't say immigration. They say non-EU immigration, because they have absolutely no power whatsoever because of the European Union laws now and the giving away of sovereignty to stop anybody coming in from the European Union into Britain. And that's exactly the position they want. They're doing the same in America, of course, as listeners to this program will well know. And so anyone that challenges this, in America, for instance, they're called racist, and they're targeted by the federal government, as we're seeing in some states of America have tried to make a stand on this. And it's all orchestrated to break down and destroy a sense of what is America, of what is Britain, what is all these countries that are targeted. And like I say, this is not an attack on what we call immigrants. It's absolutely not, because they are as much pawns in this game as anybody else.